Maya woke up before the sun rose. The small clock beside her bed ticked softly, showing 5 in the morning. Her little room was cold, and the thin curtain moved with the early breeze that came through the cracked window. She looked down beside her and saw her baby girl, Lily, still asleep. The child's tiny hands rested on a faded blanket, her lips slightly open as she breathed softly. Seeing her daughter sleeping like that gave Maya both strength and sadness. She smiled faintly and brushed the baby's hair away from her forehead. "Just a little more time, my love," she whispered. "Mama will make everything better one day." Maya stood up carefully so the old bed wouldn't squeak and wake the baby. The floor was cold under her feet and she quickly reached for her worn-out slippers. She went to the corner of the room where she had placed an old kettle. The room was small, with 1 chair, 1 table, and a small stove that worked when she banged it twice. It was all she could afford, but she always kept it tidy. As the water heated, she took out a small jar of instant coffee, almost empty now. She shook it a little to get the last bits from the bottom, then added hot water and stirred. The bitter smell filled the air. She took 1 sip and sighed. It was not sweet, but it woke her up enough to start the day. Before leaving, she prepared Lily's milk. She warmed it gently and placed it beside the bed so it would be ready when her neighbor, Mrs. Green, came over to watch the baby while Maya went to work. Mrs. Green was kind and always helped her for a small amount. Knowing Maya didn't earn much, Maya packed her small bag, an old leather one with a broken zipper, and put on her long brown coat. Outside, the sky was still gray, but she liked this quiet time. She closed the door softly behind her and started walking to the cafe where she worked. It was a 15-minute walk through narrow streets. The town was still asleep except for a few people opening their shops. The cafe sat on the corner of a busy street. The moment she arrived, she tied her apron and started cleaning tables before the customers came in. Her boss, Mr. Barton, nodded as she came in. He was not unkind, but he didn't talk much. "Morning, Maya," he said while checking the stock of bread. "Good morning, sir," she replied with a small smile. By 7, the cafe was full of people, office workers, students and locals grabbing a quick breakfast. Maya moved quickly between tables, carrying trays of coffee and toast. She always greeted everyone with a gentle smile, even when her feet hurt or when customers complained. A young woman sitting by the window noticed her and said to her friend, "She's always smiling, even when she looks so tired." Maya didn't hear it, but it was true. Her smile was her shield. She had learned that being kind, even when life wasn't, made the day a little lighter. At 10, she took a short break and sat by the back door with a cup of water. She checked her phone, an old one with a cracked screen, and saw a photo of Lily. The baby was smiling in the picture, wearing a pink dress someone had given them. Maya stared at it for a while, feeling tears form in her eyes. She wiped them quickly and whispered, "One day, my little one, I'll give you everything you deserve." She went back to work before her break ended. Hours passed and the lunch rush came and went. By evening, she was tired but relieved that another day was almost over. She cleaned the last table and took off her apron. Mr. Barton handed her a small envelope, her pay for the week. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded. "You work hard, Maya. I wish I could pay you more, but times are tight." "I understand," she replied. And she truly did. On her way home, she stopped by a small grocery store and bought a loaf of bread, some milk, and a few apples. She counted the coins in her hand before paying. It was just enough. She smiled politely at the cashier, who knew her by now and often gave her a small discount. Outside, the sky was turning orange, and clouds hung low as if rain was coming. Maya walked faster. She didn't want Lily to worry or cry before she reached home. When she finally reached her small building, she climbed the stairs quickly. The sound of Lily's giggles reached her ears before she opened the door. "Mommy's home," Mrs. Green said cheerfully, holding the baby in her arms. Lily stretched her hands toward Maya, and the young mother's tiredness disappeared in an instant. She took the baby and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mrs. Green," Maya said. "You're welcome, dear. She was good today. Slept a lot, ate well." After Mrs. Green left, Maya changed into her home clothes and started preparing a simple dinner, soup and bread. She fed Lily first, laughing softly when the baby spilled some on her shirt. The warmth of their little home wrapped around her, even though the room was small and the wind sometimes whistled through the cracks. Later that night, as Lily slept, Maya sat by the window and looked outside. The street was quiet now, the streetlights casting a golden glow on the wet pavement. She thought about her life, how quickly everything had changed. Just a few years ago, she had dreams of finishing college, starting a small bakery, maybe even traveling one day. But those dreams had to wait. She remembered the day she found out she was pregnant. The father had left soon after, saying he wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. It had broken her heart, but she decided she would raise her child on her own. It wasn't easy, but when she saw Lily's smile, she knew she had made the right choice. Maya took out a small notebook from the drawer. It was old and filled with her handwriting, recipes, notes, and drawings of cakes and breads she wanted to make one day. She flipped through the pages and smiled. One day, she whispered again, one day I'll have my own bakery. Maybe I'll call it Lily's Corner. Just then thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain began to fall, softly at first, then harder. She closed the window halfway, but kept looking outside. Rain always made her feel calm, though sometimes it reminded her of loneliness too. Suddenly the lights flickered and went out. The room went dark. Maya sighed, knowing the building often lost power during storms. She lit a small candle and placed it on the table. Its gentle light made the room look warmer. She sat back beside Lily, humming a lullaby. The baby turned slightly and smiled in her sleep. The sight made Maya's heart melt. Hours passed and the rain didn't stop. The sound of water hitting the roof became like a rhythm in the quiet night. Maya finally closed her eyes for a bit, resting beside her baby. The next morning came with gray skies. The streets were wet and puddles reflected the dull light. Maya dressed quickly and prepared for another day at work. She kissed Lily's forehead and handed her to Mrs. Green again before stepping out. The rain had slowed, but the wind still blew cold. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and began walking. Halfway to the cafe, she noticed a small bakery on the corner, one she often passed but never entered. The smell of fresh bread came through the open door, warm and sweet. She paused for a moment, imagining herself working there, baking bread with her own recipes. Then she smiled softly and kept walking. Dreams could wait. Right now, Lily needed her more. At the cafe, the morning rush was already starting. Maya greeted customers with her usual smile, taking orders and serving food. She had a calm and gentle way that made people feel comfortable. Some regular customers even asked for her by name because they liked how she made their coffee just right. Around noon, a small accident happened. A customer spilled coffee on the floor. Maya quickly grabbed a cloth and knelt to clean it. Her knees ached, but she didn't complain. One of the customers, an older man sitting near the door, watched her quietly. He noticed how she handled everything with patience. "You've got good manners, young lady," he said kindly as she stood up. "Thank you, sir," she replied with a smile. "Keep that smile," he added. "It'll take you far." Maya didn't think much of it, but those words stayed with her. By the end of the day, she was exhausted. Her hands smelled of coffee and soap, and her feet hurt from standing all day. But when she thought of Lily waiting at home, her heart softened. She wiped her hands, picked up her bag, and stepped out into the evening air. The sky was dark again, and rain threatened to fall once more. She hurried through the street, avoiding puddles. As she turned a corner near the park, she heard faint crying. It was a child's voice, lost and scared. She stopped, looked around. The park was nearly empty, just a few dim lights flickering. The crying continued. For a second she hesitated. It was getting late and she needed to get home. But something inside her wouldn't let her walk away. She followed the sound, holding her bag tightly. Near the swings, she saw a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sitting on the ground, hugging his knees. His clothes were damp and tears ran down his face. Maya's heart clenched. She looked around for an adult, but no one was there. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly, walking closer. "What's wrong? Are you lost?" The boy looked up, frightened at first, then slightly calmer when he saw her gentle face. I can't find my dad," he sobbed. "He was here and then I turned around and he was gone." Maya knelt beside him. "It's okay," she said, reaching into her bag for a small tissue. She wiped his tears carefully. "What's your name?" "Ethan," he said between sobs. "Well, Ethan, don't worry. We'll find your dad, okay?" He nodded weakly. She took off her scarf, an old one but still warm, and wrapped it around his shoulders. "Here, you must be cold." He looked at her and then at her baby photo in her phone screen when it lit up. "Do you have a baby?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said with a small smile. "Her name is Lily. She's waiting for me at home." Ethan's sobs began to slow. "You're nice," he whispered. Maya looked around again. "Still no one. Let's wait here under that tree," she said, pointing to a spot where the rain didn't reach much. "Maybe your dad will come back here soon." She sat beside him, talking softly to keep him calm. She told him about her baby, about how Lily liked to laugh at everything. Slowly, Ethan began to smile a little. As the rain started again, Maya held her coat over both of them, keeping the boy dry. She didn't notice the dark car parked not far away, or the tall man who had just stepped out, searching desperately in the rain. That moment, Maya, a tired young mother, sitting in the rain comforting a stranger's child, would soon change her life in ways she could never imagine. But for now, she only cared that the boy wasn't scared anymore. She looked down at him, then at the dark sky, and whispered to herself, "Everything will be okay." The rain kept falling, soft at first and then heavier again. Maya held her coat tighter around the little boy sitting next to her. The child shivered, but his crying had stopped now. His big brown eyes looked up at her, full of fear and confusion. She gave him a gentle smile, trying to keep him calm even though she was cold and wet herself. "It's okay, Ethan," she said softly. "Your dad will find you soon. He's probably looking everywhere right now." The boy nodded, still sniffing. He held onto her scarf, the one she had wrapped around him earlier, as if it gave him comfort. They sat under the tree near the swings, sheltering as much as they could from the rain. The park was empty except for them. The streetlights flickered and the sound of passing cars echoed in the distance. Maya looked around again, hoping to see someone, but the place remained quiet. "How long have you been here?" she asked gently. "I don't know," he said in a small voice. "Daddy was talking to someone on the phone. I saw a balloon and I wanted to see it. When I turned back, he was gone." Maya's heart softened even more. The boy's voice trembled with guilt, like he thought he had done something terribly wrong. She placed her hand on his shoulder. "Hey, it's not your fault. Sometimes these things happen, but your dad will find you soon. I promise." She pulled out her phone from her pocket, but the screen stayed black. The rain must have damaged it. She sighed softly. "Well, that's not helpful." Ethan looked up at her. "Are you going to leave me?" Maya shook her head quickly. "Of course not, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay with you until your dad comes." The boy nodded, his eyes filling with tears again. Maya gently wiped them away with her sleeve. "Shh, it's okay," she whispered. "You're safe." To distract him, she began to talk about her baby, Lily. "You know, my little girl loves balloons too. She tries to grab them, but they always float away. One time she even tried to eat one." That made Ethan giggle a little, and hearing that small laugh made Maya smile. She kept talking softly, telling him simple stories about funny things Lily did. The boy started to relax, leaning against her side. Time passed slowly. The rain softened again, but the night felt colder. Maya rubbed Ethan's hands to keep him warm. She was tired after a long day, but she couldn't leave him alone. Every few minutes she looked toward the street, hoping to see someone searching. Not far away, behind the line of parked cars, a man was indeed searching. His heart was racing, his hands trembling. He called out his son's name again and again, his voice echoing through the wet park. His name was Adrian. He had been on an important phone call for just a few moments, and when he turned around, his son was gone. Panic had taken over him since then. He ran through the park, his shoes splashing in puddles, shouting, "Ethan!" until his voice cracked. The security team he had called was now searching nearby streets. He felt like he was losing his mind. He didn't care about his wetsuit or his expensive shoes. Nothing mattered but finding his little boy. Then, through the dim light, he saw something, a small figure under a tree. He slowed his steps and looked closer. His breath caught when he recognized his son's coat. "Ethan!" he shouted, his voice breaking. The boy's head turned sharply. "Daddy!" he cried out. Adrian ran toward him. Maya stood up quickly, her heart relieved. Ethan ran straight into his father's arms, holding him tightly. Adrian knelt and hugged him so close it seemed he never wanted to let go again. The boy was crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. Maya stepped back a little, smiling softly at the sight. It warmed her heart to see the reunion. After a few moments, Adrian looked up at her. He was breathing hard, his eyes wide with both fear and gratitude. You stayed with him?" he asked, his voice shaking. Maya nodded shyly. "Yes, I found him crying. I didn't want to leave him alone." Adrian stood, still holding Ethan in his arms. His eyes softened as he looked at her. She was soaked from head to toe, her coat clinging to her, hair wet and sticking to her face. Her shoes were muddy, but her expression was calm and kind. "I can't thank you enough," he said quietly. "I was terrified. I thought I had lost him." Maya smiled. "It's okay. I'm just glad he's safe. Please let me do something for you," he said quickly. "You must be freezing. Can I drop you somewhere? Or at least call you a cab?" She shook her head gently. "That's kind, but it's all right. I live nearby. I'll be fine." Adrian wanted to insist, but something about her calm tone stopped him. She didn't look like someone who asked for favors. She looked like someone who had learned to manage alone. He looked at her again, really looked this time. Her hands were red from the cold and her face showed tiredness. But there was a quiet strength in her eyes. "Thank you," he said again, this time more softly, with real emotion. She nodded, smiled faintly, and turned to leave. As she walked away in the rain, Adrian stood there watching her go, holding Ethan close. He couldn't stop thinking about the kindness of that stranger who had cared for his child like her own. He turned to his son. "She helped you, didn't she?" Ethan nodded. "She told me stories. She gave me her scarf." Adrian looked down and noticed the old woolen scarf around his son's shoulders. It was worn but clean, smelling faintly of soap. He swallowed hard. "Then she's an angel," he whispered. Later that night, after they reached home safely, Adrian couldn't stop thinking about her. He was a man who usually focused only on work. As the CEO of a big company, his life was full of meetings, phone calls, and endless pressure. But that night, as he tucked Ethan into bed, he felt something shift inside him. He sat by his son's bedside, still shaken by what had happened. "You scared me today," he said softly. "I'm sorry, Daddy," Ethan whispered, half asleep. "But the lady helped me." Adrian smiled faintly. "Yes, she did." When he went to his study later, he found himself staring out the window. The rain had stopped now, and the city lights reflected on the wet streets. He thought about how easily he could have lost his son, and how a stranger's compassion had changed everything. Meanwhile, across town, Maya finally reached home. She was soaked and exhausted, but she smiled when she saw Lily sleeping peacefully. She changed into dry clothes, wrapped herself in a blanket, and sat beside the baby. Her body was tired, but her heart felt light. She didn't know that someone important had been watching her, someone whose life she had just touched deeply. The next day came quickly. Maya woke up early again, even though her body begged for rest. She couldn't afford to miss work. After feeding Lily and leaving her with Mrs. Green, she hurried back to the cafe. When she arrived, she noticed a sleek black car parked across the street. It looked out of place in this simple neighborhood, but she didn't pay much attention. She had too many things on her mind. Inside, the cafe buzzed with the usual morning rush. Maya worked as she always did, polite, fast, and quiet. She took orders, carried trays, wiped tables. The manager nodded at her, satisfied. But across the street, inside that black car, Adrian was sitting silently, watching through the window. He had spent the whole night thinking about her. He wanted to know who she was, where she worked. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was gratitude, maybe curiosity. He watched as she smiled politely at customers, always gentle even when they were rude. She didn't know he was there. "She works hard," Adrian murmured to himself. His driver glanced at him but didn't speak. He stayed for nearly an hour before finally leaving, but her image stayed in his mind. Later that day, Maya's co-worker noticed her lost in thought. "You okay?" Maya nodded. "Just tired." But her mind kept replaying the night before. The little boy's face, his father's relieved expression. She wondered if they made it home safely. She hoped they were fine. That evening, after work, she picked up Lily and went home. She didn't notice the same black car passing by again slowly. For the next few days, Adrian couldn't focus at work. Every time he looked at his son, he remembered that rainy night, and the woman who had stayed in the cold just to comfort a stranger's child. He had met countless people in his life, but her kindness was different. It was pure, quiet, and real. He asked his assistant to find out about the woman from the cafe on Elm Street. "Discreetly," he said. The assistant returned later that day with a small file. Her name's Maya, he said. Single mother. Works part-time at the cafe. Lives in a small apartment nearby. Seems like she's been struggling, sir. Adrian looked through the file, feeling a strange ache in his chest. He had money, power, everything, yet he realized how little kindness he showed in his own busy life. This woman, who had almost nothing, had given warmth and comfort without asking for anything. That night he sat with Ethan again. "Do you remember the lady who helped you?" he asked. Ethan nodded eagerly. "She was nice. Can we see her again, Daddy?" "I want to thank her." Adrian smiled softly. "Maybe we will, son. Maybe we will." Across town, Maya was reading her notebook by candlelight again, the one filled with her baking recipes. She was dreaming of a better future, unaware that her life was about to change because someone powerful was now thinking of ways to help her. Not out of pity, but out of genuine respect and gratitude. The world felt big and divided, yet a simple act of kindness had quietly connected two very different lives. One of a poor young mother struggling to survive, and one of a wealthy man learning what truly mattered. Neither of them knew it yet, but that night in the park was only the beginning of a story that would change them both forever. Maya looked at her baby and smiled. "Good night, my love," she whispered. "Tomorrow will be better." Outside, the city lights flickered softly, and somewhere far away, Adrian sat by his window, thinking the same thing. The morning light came softly through the window of the small apartment. Maya was getting ready for work again, packing her bag while Lily sat on the bed playing with an empty cup. It had been almost a week since that night in the park. Life had gone back to its usual rhythm, or so she thought. She still remembered the little boy's face. Sometimes, while pouring coffee for a customer or wiping a table, she would think about him. How scared he was. How he had clung to her scarf. She hoped he was happy now, safe at home with his father. As always, she kissed Lily before leaving. "Be good for Mrs. Green," she said softly. The walk to the cafe felt colder that day. Autumn was beginning to show. The trees along the road had started to turn yellow, and the wind carried the smell of rain even though the sky was clear. Maya liked mornings like this. They reminded her that change could be beautiful too. When she reached the cafe, she noticed something unusual. A black car stood across the street again, the same kind she had seen before. She thought maybe it belonged to someone important, but she didn't think much of it. She had work to do. Inside, she put on her apron and began her usual routine. Cleaning tables, arranging pastries, preparing the counter. Customers began to come in, and soon the cafe filled with the hum of conversations, clinking cups, and the smell of fresh coffee. She was serving a group of students when she noticed a man standing near the entrance. He looked slightly out of place in his dark suit. He wasn't someone she had seen before, yet there was something familiar about him. He waited patiently until she was free. When she turned to take his order, she froze for a moment. It was him, the boy's father. He smiled gently. "Good morning," he said. "You probably don't remember me." Maya blinked, unsure what to say. "Of course I do. You're Ethan's father." He nodded. "Yes, I wanted to see you again to thank you properly. That night I didn't even ask your name." She looked embarrassed. "Oh, that wasn't necessary. I was just glad your boy was safe." He extended his hand politely. "I'm Adrian." "Maya," she said quietly, shaking his hand. "I hope you don't mind me coming here," he said. "I tried to find a way to thank you, but I didn't want to disturb you." "It's fine," she said softly, looking down. "Would you like some coffee?" "Yes, please. Whatever you recommend." She nodded and went behind the counter. Her hands trembled slightly as she prepared the drink. She wasn't used to people like him, well-dressed, confident, clearly wealthy. Still, his voice had been kind. When she brought him his cup, he said, "May I sit here for a while?" "Of course," she replied. He sat by the window, and for a moment the place grew quieter around him. Some customers turned to look. He stood out in this simple cafe. Maya returned to her work, but she could feel his eyes following her gently, not in a strange way, but as if he was curious about her life. After a while, when the rush slowed, she came to clear his table. He smiled. "You're very good at your job. Everyone here seems to like you," she shrugged modestly. "It's just coffee." "It's more than that," he said. "You make people feel welcome." "That's rare." Maya felt her cheeks warm. Thank you. Adrian hesitated, then said, Would it be all right if I asked you something? Are you working here full-time? Yes, she said. Well, mostly. Sometimes I take extra shifts if they need help. And your little girl? He asked carefully. You mentioned her that night. Maya smiled faintly. Lily. She stays with my neighbor while I work. She's a good baby. Adrian nodded. You're doing a wonderful job. She laughed softly. Some days I'm not so sure. He looked at her for a moment, seeing not just the tiredness on her face, but the quiet strength behind it. He didn't know many people who worked this hard with so much grace. Before leaving, he placed a folded paper on the table. Please take this, he said. Maya frowned. What is it? Just my card. If you ever need anything or if you're looking for better work, call me. I mean it. No pressure. She hesitated, then took it politely. Thank you, Mr. Adrian, he smiled. Just Adrian. After he left, Maya unfolded the card. It was simple but elegant. His name was printed in gold letters, along with the logo of a company she recognized from billboards around town. She stared at it for a while, unsure how to feel. That night, she told Mrs. Green about it while feeding Lily. Maybe he really wants to help, Mrs. Green said kindly. You did a big thing for him. I don't want charity, Maya said softly. Sometimes kindness isn't charity, dear, Mrs. Green replied. Sometimes it's just gratitude. Maya didn't say more, but she kept the card safely in her drawer. Days passed. Work continued, bills piled up, and she kept doing her best. But things were hard. The cafe had been cutting hours, and the pay wasn't enough. Some nights she went to bed hungry so Lily could have enough. One morning, Mr. Barton, the cafe owner, told her, Maya, I'm sorry, but we're cutting down staff next month. You'll still get hours, but not as many. Her heart sank. I understand, she said, though she didn't know how she would manage. That evening, as she put Lily to sleep, her eyes fell on the card again. She picked it up and turned it in her fingers. She didn't want to call. She hated asking for help. But something told her this might be her chance to change things. The next day, after much thought, she dialed the number. A calm female voice answered. Good morning, Mr. Adrian's office. Hello, Maya said nervously. My name is Maya. I met Mr. Adrian last week. Yes, the woman said warmly. He asked us to expect your call. Can you come in tomorrow morning? He'd like to see you. Maya hesitated. Yes, I can. When she arrived the next day, she felt out of place. The building was tall, glass shining in the sunlight. People in suits moved quickly through the lobby. She walked slowly, holding her small bag close, her heart pounding. At the reception desk, a man greeted her politely. Miss Maya, Mr. Adrian is expecting you. Please, this way. She followed him into an elevator that went up higher than she had ever been in a building before. When the doors opened, she stepped into a large office with wide windows and soft light. Adrian stood near his desk, smiling when he saw her. You came, he said. I hope it's not a bad time, she said softly. Not at all. Please sit. She sat carefully, her hands clasped in her lap. He noticed how nervous she looked and tried to make her comfortable. I know this must feel strange, he said, but I wanted to talk to you about something. When I saw how kind you were to my son, it stayed with me. People like you deserve better opportunities, she looked down. I'm fine, really. I don't want to take advantage of your kindness. You're not, he said firmly. You earned my respect that night. You didn't walk away when you could have. That says everything about your character. He paused, then continued. My company has a cafeteria. We're looking for someone to help manage it. Someone reliable, good with people. It's not a hard job, and the pay is much better than what you earn now. Maya's eyes widened. You mean, you'd hire me? I'd like to give you the chance, he said with a gentle smile. You'd have stable hours, and we can help arrange childcare nearby if you need it. She felt tears sting her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said softly. After a long pause, she nodded. Yes, thank you, Adrian smiled. Welcome to the team. When she left the building later, the sunlight felt warmer somehow. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope. She held the strap of her bag tightly and whispered to herself, maybe things really can change. Her first day at the company cafeteria was nerve-wracking. The place was bright and busy, full of employees talking and laughing. She met the head cook, a friendly woman named Nora, who showed her around. You'll be fine, Nora said. Just keep that smile of yours. People like that. Maya worked hard, as always. She learned quickly and treated everyone kindly. Soon people started greeting her by name. Even the grumpy security guard began to smile when she brought him coffee in the morning. Adrian often passed by the cafeteria on his way to meetings. He would stop for a moment, watching her from a distance as she chatted with staff, laughing softly. She brought warmth into a place that had always felt cold and rushed. One afternoon, Ethan came to the office with his nanny. When he saw Maya in the cafeteria, his face lit up. "That's her!" he shouted happily, running to her. Maya laughed and knelt down. "Hey, Ethan. How are you?" "I missed you," he said, hugging her. "Daddy said you work here now." She smiled at Adrian, who had followed behind. "Yes, I do. And I see someone's grown taller already." Ethan grinned proudly. Adrian looked at her and said quietly, "He talks about you all the time. You made quite an impression." Maya blushed a little. "He's a sweet boy." From that day, whenever Ethan visited, he always went to see her first. He'd sit in the cafeteria, eating cookies she baked for him, and tell her about his school or his drawings. Adrian watched these moments with quiet gratitude. He felt lighter whenever Maya was around. Her presence seemed to bring calm to everything. Weeks turned into months. Maya settled into her new job. She rented a slightly better apartment, one with more sunlight for Lily. Her life was still simple, but it was steady now. She could buy better food, pay bills on time, and even save a little. Sometimes, late at night, she would look at Lily sleeping and whisper, "We're getting there, my love." Slowly, but we're getting there. She didn't know that Adrian often thought of her too. He admired her strength, her kindness, her quiet dignity. He had met many people who wanted something from him, but Maya wanted nothing except to do her job well. One evening, after a long day, Adrian stopped by the cafeteria when most people had left. Maya was wiping tables, humming softly. "You're still here?" he asked. She looked up, surprised. "Just finishing up. I like to leave it clean for the morning." He nodded. "You always go the extra mile," she smiled. "It's a habit." He hesitated, then said, "Would you like a ride home? It's late." "Oh, that's not necessary," she said quickly. "I insist," he said gently. "It's no trouble." After a moment, she agreed. In the car, they talked quietly. She told him about her dreams of baking, and he listened, genuinely interested. "Maybe one day you'll open that bakery," he said. She smiled wistfully. "Maybe, but dreams take time." "Sometimes," he replied. "They just need the right person to believe in them." She looked at him then, and for a brief second their eyes met in a way that said more than words. But she quickly looked away, not wanting to think too much about it. When the car stopped in front of her building, she thanked him and stepped out. He watched her go, her figure small against the streetlights, and he thought again about how someone so ordinary could carry so much grace. Inside, Maya carried Lily to bed and sat by the window, thinking of the strange path her life had taken, from serving coffee in a small cafe to working for the man whose child she once comforted in the rain. Life was still hard, but she felt hope now. And somewhere deep inside, though she didn't admit it, she felt something else too. A quiet warmth when she thought of Adrian. For him too, things began to change. The cold routines of his work no longer felt the same. There was a softness in his days, a sense of gratitude that came from remembering that night in the park. Neither of them knew what lay ahead. But both knew one simple truth. A single act of kindness had set everything in motion, leading them towards something neither had expected but both needed deeply. And though they didn't say it aloud, each of them went to bed that night with the same quiet thought, the feeling that life, even after pain and struggle, still had a way of surprising you in the most human, gentle ways. The days kept moving quietly one after another, and life began to feel more peaceful for Maya. Every morning she would wake up early, make breakfast for Lily, and then head to work at the company cafeteria. It had become her second home, a place where she wasn't just another worker but someone who was seen, respected, and valued. She had grown more confident now. Her smile came easier, her steps lighter. She still wore the same kind of simple clothes, still tied her hair the same way, but there was something different about her, something brighter in her eyes. Adrian noticed it too. Sometimes when he passed through the cafeteria, he would stop and watch her for a moment. He admired how she handled everything, How she spoke kindly to everyone, even when she was tired. How she managed to calm down a frustrated employee with just a few gentle words. How she always remembered to smile even when no one was looking. One afternoon, while she was arranging sandwiches on the counter, Adrian came in with his assistant. He was in the middle of a conversation, but when his eyes caught hers, he paused and smiled. She smiled back before quickly returning to her work. After he left, Nora, the head cook, nudged her with a playful grin. "He likes you, you know." Maya looked up, startled. "Who? Who else?" "The boss." Maya laughed softly, shaking her head. "Don't be silly. He's just being kind." "Kind, yes," Nora said, lowering her voice. "But that's not all. He doesn't look at anyone else like that." Maya tried to brush it off, but her cheeks grew warm. "He's a good man," she said quietly. That night, as she walked home, her thoughts were full of confusion. She respected Adrian deeply, admired his kindness, his patience, the way he treated people, but she was also afraid of letting her heart hope for something that might never be possible. She still remembered the hard years, the loneliness, the judgment, the struggles to keep her baby fed when she had nothing. People had promised things before, and they had all disappeared when life became difficult. She didn't want to expect anything now. The next morning, as she was serving breakfast, Adrian appeared again. This time, he looked more relaxed than usual. "Maya," he said gently, "are you free this Sunday?" She hesitated. "I think so. Why?" "I was wondering if you and Lily would like to join me and Ethan at the park. He's been asking to see you both." Maya smiled, surprised. "He still remembers us?" "He never stopped talking about you," Adrian said with a small laugh. "He says Lily is his friend." Her heart softened at that. "He's a sweet boy. So will you come?" She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, we'd love to." That Sunday, she dressed Lily in her best little dress and packed some snacks. They went to the park early, and Maya felt nervous at first. But when she saw Ethan running toward them, waving happily, her worries melted away. He hugged her tightly. "You came. Daddy said you might not, but I told him you would." Adrian followed behind, smiling at the scene. "I'm glad he was right," he said. They spent the morning walking through the park, watching the children play, laughing at Ethan's stories. Lily, shy at first, soon started giggling as Ethan showed her how to feed the ducks. Adrian and Maya sat on a bench nearby, watching them. "She's growing fast," he said, nodding toward Lily. "Yes," Maya said softly. "Sometimes I wish I could slow time down. I don't want to miss anything," he smiled. "You remind me a lot of my mother. She used to say the same thing about me." "Was she kind like you?" Maya asked. Adrian looked thoughtful. "She was strong. She taught me everything about hard work and kindness. I lost her when I was young, but her lessons stayed." "I'm sorry," Maya said gently. He nodded, his eyes distant for a moment. "She would have liked you." Maya looked away, feeling her heart race. She didn't know what to say. The day went by quickly. When they were leaving, Ethan clung to Maya's hand and said, "Can we do this again?" Maya smiled. "Of course we can." Adrian looked at her and said, "Next weekend, maybe." "We could go somewhere different." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." Over the next few weeks, they started meeting more often. Sometimes it was the park, sometimes a small cafe, sometimes just a walk after work when the city lights began to glow. Their friendship grew naturally, slow, quiet, but full of small moments that meant a lot. Adrian found himself looking forward to seeing her, to hearing her laugh, to the way she spoke about life with such honesty. She had no interest in money, no concern about his status. She treated him like a person, not a title. It had been years since anyone had done that. For Maya, it was still strange to be around him. He came from a world so different from hers. But when they talked, it didn't feel that way. With him, she could be herself. One evening, as they walked near the lake, Maya said quietly, "Sometimes I wonder why life brought us together that night." Adrian looked at her. "Maybe it was meant to." She smiled softly. "Maybe." They stood there for a while, watching the reflection of the city lights shimmer on the water. The silence between them was gentle, not awkward, like two people who didn't need words to understand what they felt, but not everyone saw it that way. One morning, when Maya arrived at work, she noticed people whispering. The tone felt different, sharp, curious. She caught fragments of words like special treatment and the boss's favorite. At first, she tried to ignore it, but by midday, One of the junior staff members said something loud enough for her to hear. Maybe if we all smiled like that at the boss, we'd get better jobs too. Maya froze, her face pale. She didn't respond, but inside her heart sank. She had worked so hard to earn respect, and now it felt like people saw her as someone taking advantage. That afternoon, she went to Adrian's office. He looked up, surprised when he saw her serious expression. "Maya, is something wrong?" She took a deep breath. "I think I should leave the job." "What?" "Why, people are talking," she said quietly. "They think I'm here because of you, not because I earned it. I don't want to cause problems for you." Adrian leaned forward. "Maya, listen to me. You earned this job. You've changed the whole atmosphere in that cafeteria. Don't let a few jealous people take that away from you." She shook her head. "It's not that simple. I don't want to be the reason for gossip." He looked at her for a long moment, then said softly, "And what about me? You think I want you to leave?" She blinked, not expecting that. "I just don't want to make things hard." Adrian stood up, walked to the window, and sighed. "You've done nothing wrong. Don't punish yourself for other people's insecurities." There was silence for a while before he turned back to her. "But if you really feel this way, I'll understand." She hesitated. "I'll stay a little longer," she said finally. "Until things calm down." "Good," he said, visibly relieved. "I don't want to lose you from this place." When she left, her thoughts were heavy. She knew he meant well, but the situation made her uneasy. She didn't want to depend on anyone. That evening, she found comfort in Lily's laughter. Her daughter was drawing something on a piece of paper. "Look, Mama! It's you, me, and Uncle Adrian." Maya smiled faintly. "Uncle Adrian?" Lily nodded proudly. "He gives me cookies." Maya laughed softly, but her heart ached a little. She didn't know what she and Adrian really were. Friends, maybe something more, but whatever it was, she didn't want Lily to get too attached. Life had taught her not to expect too much from happiness. A few days later, there was a company event, a charity dinner organized by Adrian's firm. Maya didn't plan to attend, but Nora convinced her. "You should go," Nora said. "You're part of the company now. Besides, you deserve a night off." So Maya went. She wore a simple blue dress that she had saved for special occasions. It wasn't fancy, but it suited her perfectly. When she entered the hall, people turned to look. She wasn't the richest or the most glamorous woman there, but she had something rare: grace. Adrian saw her from across the room and couldn't look away. He excused himself from a group of investors and walked straight to her. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. Maya smiled shyly. "Thank you. I almost didn't come." "I'm glad you did." They spent the evening talking and laughing. For the first time, she saw a different side of him. Not the serious CEO, but a man who could joke, who could relax, who seemed at peace when she was around. But again, not everyone looked kindly at them. Some people whispered. One of the board members even asked Adrian later, "Isn't she the woman from the cafeteria?" Adrian's voice was calm but firm. "Yes, and she's one of the best employees we have." After the event, he offered to drive her home. The city was quiet that night, the streets almost empty. "I hope tonight didn't make you uncomfortable," he said softly. "It was nice," she said, smiling faintly, "but I could tell some people were surprised." He looked at her seriously. "Let them be. I don't live for their opinions." She didn't reply, but she understood what he meant. When they reached her building, she turned to him. "Thank you for everything." He looked at her for a long moment, his eyes full of something unspoken. "Maya," he said quietly, "do you ever wonder what this is between us?" She felt her breath catch. "I don't know," she whispered. "Neither do I," he said. "But it feels right." She didn't answer. She only smiled sadly and said, "Good night." When she stepped out of the car, she stood for a moment on the sidewalk, her heart beating fast. She knew something was changing between them, something neither of them could deny anymore. Inside, she sat by Lily's bed, brushing her daughter's hair softly as she slept. She thought about everything, how far she'd come, how unexpected this new chapter was. She didn't know where it would lead, but she felt grateful. For the first time in years, her life wasn't just about survival. It was about hope. And somewhere deep inside, she realized she was starting to believe again in kindness, in second chances, and maybe, just maybe, in love. The next few weeks passed quietly. though neither Maya nor Adrian could ignore the change between them. Something gentle but deep had grown, something they both felt but didn't dare name. Maya went on with her work as always. She greeted everyone with her soft smile, served meals and made sure the cafeteria stayed warm and welcoming. But sometimes when she caught sight of Adrian walking by, her heart would skip a beat. Adrian too found himself distracted. Meetings felt longer, numbers less important. His thoughts often drifted to her, to the way her laughter could soften even the hardest day, to how she never asked for anything but still gave so much. One morning, Ethan burst into his father's office with his usual energy. "Daddy, can Maya and Lily come over to our house one day?" Adrian smiled, setting aside his papers. "You really like them, don't you?" Ethan nodded eagerly. "Maya tells the best stories and Lily likes my toy cars." "Please, Daddy?" Adrian hesitated for a moment. Inviting Maya to his home felt like crossing a line he wasn't sure about. But when he saw the excitement in his son's eyes, he said, "All right, we'll ask her." Later that afternoon, he found Maya in the cafeteria during a quiet hour. She was arranging cups on a tray, humming softly to herself. "Maya," he said gently. She looked up. "Oh, hello. Did you need something?" "Actually, yes. Ethan has a special request. He wants you and Lily to come over for dinner this weekend. Only if you're comfortable with that." Maya froze for a second. "Dinner at your house?" He smiled. "Yes, just a small one." "He won't stop asking," she laughed softly. "He's hard to say no to. So you'll come?" She thought for a moment, then nodded. "If it's really okay." "It's more than okay," he said warmly. When Saturday came, Maya dressed Lily in a neat pink dress and tied her own hair back simply. She didn't own fancy clothes, but she still looked graceful, even in her modest outfit. When they arrived at Adrian's home, she was taken aback. It was beautiful, modern, spacious, filled with light, but not cold. Somehow it felt lived in. Ethan ran to greet them, pulling Lily by the hand to show her his toys. Adrian watched from the doorway, smiling. "Welcome," he said softly. "I'm glad you came." "Your home is lovely," she said politely. "Thank you. But it's a lot quieter without Ethan running around. Tonight feels different." They shared a smile before walking to the dining room. The meal was simple but delicious. Adrian had asked his chef to prepare something light and family style, nothing that would make Maya feel out of place. The evening passed in laughter. Ethan told stories that made everyone giggle. Lily shyly joined in, and for the first time in a long while, Maya felt like she was sitting at a real family table. After dinner, while the children played, Adrian and Maya sat on the balcony. The city lights shimmered in the distance. "It's peaceful here," Maya said softly. "I come here when I need to think," Adrian replied. "It reminds me that even in the middle of everything, there's quiet if you look for it." She looked at him, seeing the man behind the suit, the one who carried so much responsibility but still had kindness in his eyes. "Thank you for inviting us," she said. "Lily's so happy." "I should be the one thanking you," he said quietly. "You've changed so much around me, my son, my days. Even me." Maya's heart trembled at his words. "You give me too much credit," he smiled faintly. "No, I don't." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the soft laughter of the children inside. It felt natural, comforting. But deep down, both knew something was growing, something that could no longer be hidden behind polite smiles and careful words. As the night grew late, Adrian offered to drive them home. On the way, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting against Maya's arm. When they reached her building, Maya whispered, "Thank you for everything." "It was a beautiful evening." He nodded. "I'm glad you came." "Sleep well, Maya." For a second, their eyes met and something unspoken passed between them, something tender, fragile, and real. Then she stepped out, holding Lily close, and disappeared into the building. That night, Adrian sat by his window thinking about her. He knew he was beginning to care for her in a way that went beyond friendship. But he also knew it wouldn't be simple. Their worlds were too different. People already whispered, and yet he couldn't imagine stepping back. Maya lay awake too, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts spinning. She knew what her heart was trying to say, but she didn't dare listen. Life had taught her that happiness often came with a price, and she wasn't sure she could afford it. Days passed, and though they saw each other at work, both were quieter now. There was a tension between them, not heavy, but full of unspoken feelings. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. The company was holding a small celebration for a successful project. Everyone was invited, including the cafeteria staff. Maya went, happy to be part of it. But as the evening went on, one of the senior managers, a man named Colin, made a comment she couldn't ignore. "So, you're the famous Maya," he said with a smirk. "I was wondering how someone from the cafeteria got invited to an executive event." She frowned, uncomfortable. "I'm part of the team. We all contributed," Colin chuckled. "Of course. But let's be honest, it's not your coffee that got you here." Before she could respond, Adrian stepped in. His voice was calm but firm. "Colin, that's enough." The room fell silent. Everyone turned. Adrian looked at Maya, his eyes steady. "She's here because she deserves to be. Don't forget who keeps this place running." Colin muttered an apology and left, red-faced. Maya stood frozen, unsure what to say. Later, as people began to leave, she found Adrian standing alone on the balcony. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes, I did," he replied. "You didn't deserve that." She looked down. "Now people will talk even more." "Let them," he said. "I don't care what they think." "But I do," she whispered. "I've worked so hard to build a life for Lily. I can't let gossip destroy that." Adrian sighed. "I would never let anyone hurt you. Or her." Something in his voice made her look up. Their eyes met, and all the things they hadn't said finally broke free in the silence between them. "Maya," he said softly, "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I do. I've tried not to, but every time I see you, it's harder to pretend." She felt her heart pounding. "Adrian!" "You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know. You've brought something into my life I didn't know I was missing." Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled sadly. "You don't know what you're saying. We come from different worlds. People like you don't end up with people like me." He took a step closer. "Maybe that's what people think. But I don't care about that. I care about what's real." Her hands trembled. "And what if it all falls apart? What if people talk? What if it hurts Ethan or Lily?" He reached out gently, not touching her but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Then we'll face it together." She wanted to believe him, but fear held her back. "I need time," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Take all the time you need." "I'll wait." The next few days were hard for both of them. They tried to act normal, but something had changed. Maya avoided long conversations, afraid of what her heart might say. Adrian respected her space but couldn't stop caring. One evening, as Maya was leaving work, it started raining heavily. She didn't have an umbrella, so she ran toward the bus stop, holding her bag over her head. Suddenly, a car pulled up beside her. It was Adrian. "Get in," he called out. "You'll get soaked." She hesitated, then climbed in. They drove in silence for a while, the rain drumming softly against the windows. Finally, she said, "I keep thinking about that night in the park. Everything started there." He smiled faintly. "The night you saved my son." "I didn't save him," she said. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," he said quietly. "You did what a good person would do. Not everyone would stop." Maya looked out the window, her heart full. "I was scared that night too. I didn't know what to do. I just saw a child crying and thought of Lily." He glanced at her. "That's who you are. You see others before yourself." She smiled softly. "And you're not the man people think you are. You're gentler than you show." He laughed quietly. "You figured me out." When they reached her building, the rain had stopped. She turned to him before getting out. "Adrian," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I don't know where this will lead, but I don't want to keep running from what's real." He looked at her, surprised but hopeful. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I am." For the first time, he reached out and held her hand. It wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was simple, quiet, and full of promise. That moment changed everything. From then on, they didn't have to hide their friendship or their growing affection. People still talked, of course, but gradually the whispers faded. Those who worked closely with Maya saw who she truly was, kind, hardworking, and deserving of every bit of respect. Months passed. Maya's life became brighter. She moved into a better apartment. Lily started preschool, and every evening felt like a new beginning. Adrian continued to support her, not as a savior, but as a partner who believed in her strength. One spring afternoon, Adrian surprised her by taking her and Lily to a small bakery space for rent. "I remember you once said you dreamed of having your own bakery," he said. Maya looked around, her eyes wide. "This place is beautiful. It could be yours," he said. "I'll help with the setup, but it'll be your business, your name, your work." She covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "Adrian, I can't accept this." "You can," he said softly. "Because you've earned it." That day she signed the papers. It wasn't easy at first. There were challenges, long nights, and endless learning. But Maya poured her heart into it. Soon her little bakery became a warm corner of the neighborhood. People came not just for the pastries, but for the feeling of kindness that filled the air. And sometimes Adrian would stop by quietly, buy coffee, and sit by the window watching her work, smiling to himself. Lily and Ethan became inseparable friends, often playing in the back of the bakery while their parents talked about everything, from business to life to dreams they still hadn't dared to chase. One evening, as they closed the shop, Adrian said softly, "You've come a long way, Maya," she smiled. "We both have." He looked at her, his voice full of warmth. "You changed my life. You reminded me what really matters. And you showed me that kindness can lead to beautiful things," she said. The sun was setting behind them, golden light spilling into the little bakery. Maya took his hand and said quietly, "That night in the park, I thought I was just helping a lost boy. I didn't know I was finding the path to my own happiness." Adrian smiled. "Maybe that's how life works. It surprises us when we least expect it." They stood there for a moment, hand in hand, watching Lily and Ethan laugh together. The world outside was still full of noise and chaos, but in that small corner, everything felt right. Maya had started her journey as a poor girl with a baby, struggling to survive. But through kindness, courage, and a little faith, she had built something beautiful, a new life filled with love, hope, and peace. And as the night settled in, she whispered to herself, "We made it," because she had. Not through luck, not through wealth, but through the quiet power of a kind heart and a moment of compassion that changed everything.